from? US is much later.
Nice big smile. Perfect. Fine.
Photos.
Right on. Perfect.
Can I get you guys to wave at the camera?
Probably not. Hi.
Queen wave. There you go, there's the royal wave.
I'm just gonna do this. Okay, can you hear me? Thank you all for coming today. John and I are so delighted that everybody has come to celebrate this big birthday. We don't go into the numbers anymore. You know what it is, that's enough, right? So I'm your MC, and I'm going to call upon various people who've agreed to say a few warm words. And then we'll have lunch. And lunch and speeches will be interspersed. And we'll be a little bit casual because I want to make sure that everybody gets to eat and everybody can hear the speeches. There is no head table today. John and I are going to cruise around and have different courses at different tables. We want to make sure that we talk to everybody. We also want to make sure that everybody has photographs taken with John and whoever else in the crowd you want to photograph with. Paulina is here, and just grab Paulina, tell her what you'd like, and I'm sure she'll accommodate within reason, right? So, there's some really cute kids wandering around here, and there they are in the corner at the activity table. So if anybody gets bored and wants to go do some Lego or some coloring, then you can go over and join them. Okay, so normally John takes pictures, so he's feeling a little bit anxious today because he doesn't have his camera with him. So just, ask Paulina to take a picture with him. And that's our youngest guest. That's Vivian Angelini. So we're delighted to have Vivian with us today. Now, out in the hallway, there was a book where you could write a few nice things or some jokes, whatever you wanted, just to show that we know who is here today and we have some sentiments. And we're moving the book into the room here, that table over there. And so if you haven't written in the book, please do so before the afternoon is over. And so I thought I'd tell you a little bit about how John and I met. So we met at a keg for lunch on a Wednesday, and about 8 days later we were engaged, and 10 weeks later we were married. And so that was a long time ago. And and that first lunch was supposed to be an hour. It turned out to be 4 hours, and it wasn't the food. So, and over the years, many of you have met John and known him as really a professor originally, but he has become a Renaissance man. He now, as you know, writes plays, he has literature, he mentors students, he teaches how to give presentations, and tomorrow he'll tell me I didn't use my arms enough. So here they are. So we have guests here today from far and wide, from Denmark, from California, Victoria, Vancouver, Syracuse, Kitchener-Waterloo, Ottawa, Toronto, and one of our good friends, John Vlachopoulos, could not make it today. He's in, I don't know, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, somewhere around there. And he sent a few nice words. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read them. And I'm going to apologize now to my Greek friends because, as you know, my Greek is not like yours. So here's what John Vlachopoulos wrote last week. Dear John, when we first met, I was immediately impressed because at the start of your career, you already had several high-impact scientific publications, and you could also speak Greek and German. I'm traveling from Sydney, Australia to Auckland, New Zealand, and I will miss the celebration of this milestone and of your extraordinary achievements as a pioneering researcher, prolific author, teacher, dean of engineering, businessman, mentor of young professionals, expressionist paintings, scriptwriter, and novelist. You are the embodiment of a modern-day Renaissance man. I will say my heartfelt wishes in Greek. Na ise polychronos. How did I do? Polychronos?
Very good.
I better go back to school. Okay, so I've talked with the people here at Liuna, and they've allowed us to have a few speeches before we start eating. And everybody, I hope, can wait a few minutes. You've had some hors d'oeuvres. So I'm going to ask Chandra Kudsia to be our first speaker. Our first speaker, Chandra, is one of the founders of the Canadian company ComDev International Limited, a global designer and manufacturer of space hardware. Chandra and John started with a professional relationship decades ago, and now I am delighted to say that Chandra and his wife, Wendy, are our good friends. Chandra, where are you? Come on up. I'm going to ask that all our speakers stand at the podium and speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. First of all, I'm very pleased to be here for this celebration. Going back to 1970, I attended a major microwave conference. Actually, it was my first major conference. It was called International Microwave Symposium. It was at Newport Beach in California. And in one of the sessions, a young man who was dressed as hippie started asking very provocative questions in the session and almost deliberately trying to raise controversy. So I can tell you nobody remembers the Q's and A's, but everybody remembered who was that young man. So, and it was, of course, John Bandler, and he was dressed, as I said, dressed as a hippie. So that was my first time that I encountered him. The next time I saw John was at RCA in Montreal. And at that time, John was dressed as a businessman. He was representing Communications Research Lab. Actually, he came along with Simon Hicken, who's here, and trying to drum up some business in the research area. So we gave him a small project, and that project started a lifelong association with John, both as a friend and as a peer. So if we move forward, in 1979, almost to this day, ComDev moved from Montreal to Cambridge for various reasons. So we established, again, contact with John. And during that era, the space industry was facing a major design problem in the satellites. And the problem was how to combine high-power transponders in the satellite into a single device, and that device was called a multiplexer. That problem could not be tackled purely on theoretical grounds. It has too many variables. So I thought of John. Maybe John can help us with his computer-aided design techniques to develop a piece of software that will help in the implementation of that particular device. So John came through, and established Comdev as continued leadership in that space business. And then soon after, I met John again, and I realized that now he has become an entrepreneur. He started his company called Optimization Associates, a very successful company which he sold to Hewlett Packard. And then again, as we move forward, I think what impressed me most about John was his activities outside of the academic world. He told me he was got into abstract art and into painting and became quite good at it. He even actually tried to explain me the intricacies of modern art to absolutely no avail. I had no mind for that. And then one day, John told me that he was writing into fiction. So I was quite surprised, but then lo and behold, a few years later, I got an invitation to a play by the Hamilton Fringe Festival written by John. So I went to go and see the play, and I found it quite intriguing. And then later, John was actually even directing plays. So I guess there is no end to John's adventures. And so to conclude, I would say this, that I think that I met John 45 years ago. We are still friends. And John still surprises me. And I would like to conclude with a couple of things. One is that I like to quote the famous quote of George Bernard Shaw, who said that those who can do, those who cannot teach. But in the case of John, he can do both of those things very well. As a matter of fact, I have had the good fortune of seeing John in many incarnations, various incarnations. And I'm looking really forward to his next incarnation. So, and I hope that I look forward to also our continued friendship with John. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Chandra. There's a step here. Okay, I'm getting hungry. So I'm going to call on my brother Marvin Budd, who will say a few words, and then we'll give our traditional prayer before meals in Hebrew.
Well, thank you. Well, firstly, I remember one of the first times myself and my family met John, I think was at Beth and John's wedding. Okay? And of course, they first lived closer to Toronto, and then soon after moved away and moved down to Dundas. And we often made trips down to Dundas, and Beth, and especially John, always made us feel very welcome. My kids were very young in those days, and of course the trips down to the ravine and the water started, and they were thrilled to go with John down to collect things by the river. And this trend has continued with my children, John's grandchildren, and now, of course, my grandchildren will start the same thing when they come down. So it's always been a pleasure, and the drive has always been worth it, as long as it's not in rush hour. Well, at this point, because everyone's getting hungry, I was under my 2 minutes. And John, on behalf of my whole family, happy birthday. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Today we give thanks for the bread that we eat.
Thanks, Marvin. Okay, so let's have something to eat. But I see there's nothing there. Okay, so while they're bringing out lunch, let's just have our next speaker, Sue Jurgens. Where's Sue? Sue, there's on this side we have a step for people. So Sue has put up with John and I for a long time. She's listened early mornings to the advice that we give her, and clearly she didn't need any of it. Sue and her husband John are here today. We're delighted to have you here.
Where is our guest of honor anyway?
He's over there.
Where? Oh,
John.
I just wanted to see
Turn
where.
around, Sue wants to
I just wanted to see where you were. So I am John and Beth's personal trainer. I've been with them for 18 years, so either I've done a good job or they're still waiting for results from me. Anyhow, I think they look fantastic. And because I'm a personal trainer, my job really is a personal job. So when I'm with my clients, I try to meet their personal needs. What I've discovered over the years is it really becomes a two-way street. And as much as I've been John's trainer, I have to tell you, it's going to be personal, that he has been my personal trainer. 18 years have gone by, and I've gone through lots. He's gone through lots. And I have to tell you, even though he's really too young to be my dad, he has really passed along what I'd call fatherly advice. It's been essential wisdom, and it's proven to be invaluable. And what I really want to say, John, is I am so honored to know you. I am blessed to know you, and I'm very thankful to have you in my life. To John Bandler, everybody.
So I don't know where lunch is. So while we're waiting for lunch, I'm going to ask Simon Haken. Oh, here comes lunch. But Simon, you can come up and say a few words while they're serving lunch. And then by the time you finish, it might be easier on this side, Simon. There's
Being short, I want you to.
no, but we want you to use it so we can get your voice into the video.
Well, first and foremost, I have to say the following. I've been as McMaster for many, many years, and never in all of that time have I seen a do like this. Be it, but they can hear me.
But the video won't have
Oh,
your
okay.
voice.
But what I was going to say, in all those years, I've never seen anything like this. Be that at the departmental level, at the faculty level. And to me, it's really a very special occasion. But you know, to be fair and absolutely precise, I have to raise my hat to Beth. She's done something that is incredibly impressive. And I say she deserves a lot of... I haven't finished. Let me now say a few words about John Bandler. I was only chair of electrical engineering for 3 years, and never again was I going to do it. And it was my pleasure to bring McMaster, or actually he applied, and we brought him in. And he's been with us, even though he is retired, but his impression he's left behind him is enormous. And I remember at that time, I had a lecture that I was going to give on optimization. And very nicely came over to me and he said, Simon, optimization goes beyond what you're going to talk about. Well, I stopped and he took over. And in the course of time, we really got to know each other. He was an important element in the establishment of our so-called the Communications Research Lab. And I remember he came back from a lecture he gave, and he said to me, he said, Van Valkenburg, I'm sure he will remember it. He said, by golly, he was very impressive. He was very impressed by what lecture he gave. And over in the course of time, He left quite a legacy behind him as a faculty member in the Department of Electrical Engineering. And then guess what? John established a company of his own. And I say, he is the only one I know in the Department of Electrical Engineering to be so creative. Let me go on. John was, I would say, one of the first, if not the first, the second faculty member to be awarded the IEEE Fellowship. Now that really is quite something. It is the best it could be for you to be given the IEEE Fellowship. But then, soon thereafter, he was nominated to be the fellow of our the fellowship of the Canadian pardon me? That's it. Yes. And
Are you getting hungry?
no, I've just got to finish. and then he went on to establish what he's been doing. He's really an entrepreneur. I have never in all my life have seen a faculty member proceed in the way he has. And all I can say, John, I am very proud of you. And may you create even more odds and ends that make a difference.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Simon. So lunch is here for most of us, and we'll be here promptly for the rest of us. So we'll take a break from speeches. But if anybody else who hasn't already mentioned to me you'd like to say something, please look around and let me know, and I'll add you to my list. We don't want to leave anybody out. Okay? So bon appetit, and I'll be back shortly. So while you're finishing your soup and salad, we're going to start with a few more speeches. I don't know how many we'll get in right now, but we'll get moving. And our first speaker coming up is Eleni Hapidou. We met Eleni originally from Cyprus while John was doing research for his novel about Cyprus. And she sent us off to the village she grew up in Cyprus, and we had a wonderful time there. Now Eleni and her husband, Nick Christoforou, are here with us today. And so Eleni, can I invite you to come up?
Thank you very much, Beth, for inviting me to say a few words about John, and thank you, John, for approving this. Basically, Beth has done my talk, so I'll just add a few things to what Beth has said. John, like a true scientist, when he was writing a book, he wanted to collect data, and he wanted to collect data from multiple sources, so I was one of his sources. So John and I first met at a second cup in Meadowlands, so that I would give him some information about Cyprus, where I was from, where I was born, what kind of people I knew in Cyprus, and what was my involvement in the revolution of the Cypriots, the Greek Cypriots, in order to overthrow the British rule in Cyprus in the 50s. Even though I was not yet born at the time, I still grew up with hearing a lot of stories from my friends and relatives about that time. And in fact, there was a little bit of overlap of the revolution in our family and our immediate circle of friends and family as well. So I sent John to Cyprus to meet with one of my uncles, whose mother, my great aunt, played a very big role in the revolution of the Cypriots against the British rule. And since the time, even though Beth said, don't mention years, don't mention time, so I listened to Beth, so I'm not going to say how many years I've known John and Beth, but what I wanted to say is that since the very beginning that we met under the circumstances of John collecting data for his book, And then soon after, I read his book in basically a couple of days because I was really fascinated and enthralled by all the great information and the great literature that John was putting together, a combination of history, literature, art, and science, as well as the human heart, went into the first book that John was writing. And since that time, John and Beth have become very good friends. And my husband and I have a standing appointment with John and Beth every year to go to Show Festival, is our stable, and sometimes Stratford to watch some Shakespeare plays. So we have dinners together, we have lunches together, and more lately I have become John and Beth's personal yoga teacher. So I'm very happy to be here. My husband and I are very honored to be here as well and participate in this milestone birthday for John. And also thank you to both John and Beth for the honor of having me address you on your special birthday. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleni. Our next speaker is Wolfgang Höfer. Wolfgang is here from Victoria with his wife Diana, and they're our house guests, and we're so glad that they could come and share this time with us. And last night, Wolfgang gave us a wonderful presentation, scientific and humorous, and today he'll say a few other words. Come on up. There's a step here, Wolfgang.
Thank you, Beth. It is certainly a challenge to speak when the big cannons have already roared. Dear families and friends and colleagues of John and Beth, today we celebrate an event that occurred 75 years ago, and my thesis is that it is an event of great consequence. First of all, many among us would not even exist if that event had not taken place. We would certainly not be here to celebrate, and many of us would not even know each other if that event had not occurred. But there is much more to this event than this. I must skip the first 35 years of that 75 years. Before John visited the University of Ottawa to give a talk on microwave design using optimization. I admit that I remember his speech very clearly, but I also remember as well the psychedelic shirt that he was wearing. And at that time, this would have been the hallmark of an enfant terrible. Now, John did simmer down somewhat over the years, wearing a psychedelic tie occasionally. However, he continued to rock the microwave boat with ever more aggressive space mapping and yield optimization schemes until the MTT Society and other learned bodies tried to appease him with distinctive, prestigious awards and accolades. But that did not calm him, really. His creative urges propelled him into expressionist and surrealist painting, writing of novels and drama, and the exploration of human creativity. Now, nobody has experienced this evolution as intensely as Beth. And as wise people said, behind every successful man, there is a very surprised spouse. note the adjustment for political correctness. Anyway, we owe Beth a great debt of gratitude for inviting us to this event, for hosting it, and for including us in this event. So at this time, John seems still unstoppable, and the only thing that I can do at this time is to wish him many more happy and creative years. Happy birthday, John.
Wolfgang, thank you for the lovely remarks about me. Much appreciated. Our next speaker is J.R. Hewson. J.R. started out as a writing colleague of John's and over the years has become a close friend and confidant. J.R. and his wife Barbara from Willow Beach, are here today. So here's J.R. J.R. is also one of the acting community members in our area.
So, ta-da! I am neither family, nor am I an engineering colleague, nor am I John's personal trainer. But I'm up here anyway, and believe me, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. John and I go back about 20 years. He was clever enough, I was clever enough to decide to retire. John was not. I was doing the academic medicine and, airport lobbies I don't ever want to see again. But John is into, shall we say, constructive scientific pain, and he is still flying all over the world and suffering from jet lag. And I talk with him on occasion when he's back. And dear heavens, I'm so glad I'm not stuck with jet lag anymore, you poor guy. God love you. I wish I had the height of international fame that Jonathan has. I've done my international thing and run world congresses and all that kind of stuff. But I am not a byword in the same sense around the globe that Jonathan is. I feel proud to know him. Because he and I know each other really because of the artistic side of things of our lives, I decided to create some art for this current day. And I have written an ode to Bandler's brain. And I shall leave you with this, and then I will free you from the burden of my presence up here by the microphone. All right. Right and left, left and right. We all have both, by day and by night. We are axial beings with a line down the middle, and our two-sided brain is a psychologist's riddle. With the left, we plod forward one step at a time, while the right gives us flashes of insight sublime. To put it more clearly, to grasp it with ease, the right sees the forest, the left sees the trees. This brings me to John, to all the hills that he has mastered, a hard-working genius and a friend, not a bastard. I know of no other whose brain, left and right, works so well as a unit, staying moral and right. He's known round the world for his science, for his thought. New paths, different views, on the edge, really hot. The IEEE may define him to most. He is an intuitive thinker, and he's first past the post. But those nearer to home see a much different side. Playwright, producer, painter with pride. There's more to him still. His ethics won't bend. He's thoughtful, supportive, a wonderful friend. When I act in a play or play tunes in a bar, John Bandler and Beth are not very far. We're there for each other, John Bandler and I. And I know, although we're still kids, it'll hold till we die. Jonathan, I cherish your friendship more than I can express. Thank you. Happy birthday.
Thank you, JR. Okay, now we have a special treat. John's daughters, Lydia Martin and Zoe Belvedere, are here with their husbands and their children, and they're going to come up and say a few words. So, Lydia and Zoe. Lydia and Zoe.
I'm Lydia. I'm Zoe. So now you're going to hear about how my dad is a great-grandfather. I think many of us here have had that experience of seeing our parent become a grandparent and can relate. I remember one time I was trying to teach my son, I can't remember if it was Eric or Matthew, and I was trying to teach my son how to ride a bike. And it was really frustrating for me because he just couldn't get it. I was getting really frustrated, and I said something to my dad, and he looked at me and he says, Lydia, he'll learn it in his own time. And I thought, wow, that's a dad who's just become a grandfather, like such a surprise, you know? So my dad is a really great grandfather. He engages a lot with his grandkids. He plays soccer with them, he plays chess, he draws and creates these mazes for them, and he spends a lot of time just interacting with them. So I had asked my kids what they like about Granddad, and Eric, my oldest son, who's 12, says Granddad is fun. Chess is really fun to play with him. He also helps me with writing because I want to write a book and a screenplay, so he helps me with that. So if I do really well, I'll end up owing some of that to him. But maybe also, you know, to Mom too, maybe. And Dad, yeah. Matthew said I like going to the park with him and going outside with him, playing table tennis and talking about what's going on in school. And the scavenger hunts were cool. My dad had spent a lot of time putting together a scavenger hunt for my son's birthday. And he was so excited. The day before, he kept saying, you know, Mom, I'm just so excited about the scavenger hunt. I just can't wait for my birthday. It was really nice. And Colin, my 5-year-old, said, I like playing mazes with Granddad and hide and seek and dominoes. He's fun and he chases me around the house.
And when I asked my kids what one word they would use to describe Granddad, Una, who's 11, said he's awesome, and Sam, who's almost 9, said he's fun. Sam said he enjoys playing chess with his granddad, doing mazes, playing games, playing ping pong, and Una talked about what a great storyteller he is. For me, I think back to when they were really small and they used to play Monster, which basically meant my dad would run around and try to catch them. And he had a lot of patience because the kids kept changing the rules over and over and over again. It didn't really seem to faze him. He was fine. He just kept going with it. And it's funny, as they've gotten older, he often tells my husband and I, the trick to being with the kids is to challenge them, both physically and mentally. So that's what he does to try to get them to be tired and actually go to sleep at night. Sam, my youngest, once told me that when he grows up, he wants to be a part-time scientist and a part-time artist. So he would spend 1 week as a scientist and 1 week as an artist. And I think that is really a direct influence of his granddad, who is by all definitions, and I know you've heard it tonight, but he is a true Renaissance man. And in fact, if you Google him, which I did, it comes up and says he is a professor, an engineer, an artist, a speaker, a playwright, and an author. And I think what my dad can teach all of us here is that it's never too late to try something new. He's continually exploring different facets of himself, which is evidenced by all the different groups of people here today who know him in many different contexts. And now I'd like to add to that great list of accomplishments that he's a fun and awesome grandfather. So I just want to say happy birthday, Dad. Thank you.
Do you want to say a few words? My friends here at Liuna told me it's lunchtime, so hopefully very shortly they'll bring in lunch, but maybe, I don't know, you think we can get one more speaker in? Rafat, would you like to come up and say a few words? Rafat Mansour is a professional colleague of John's at the University of Waterloo. We are delighted that Rafat and his wife Miranda are here today. Thank you, Rafat.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here today to celebrate John's birthday. I'm also happy that Beth asked me to say a few words. The first time I met John actually was in Las Vegas. That was in 1987. I was attending a microwave conference, and my poster was beside the poster of his students. And John was standing there carrying a box of pens. So I approached him, asking if I can borrow a few pens to hang my poster. He looked at me, he said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I am working at ComDev." At that time, I was just recent graduate from University of Waterloo and started my job at ComDev. So he gave me a few pens, and he said, "You should have brought your own pens next time." He said it very nicely, but with the tone of a professor who disciplined his students, actually. But certainly made me feel guilty for forgetting to bring pens to hang my poster. So I told the story when I went back. I told the story to my colleague at ComDev that I met Professor Bandler at the NTT conference. Oh, they told me, yeah, we have several of his softwares at ComDev. And we have been using it, and this is one of the main software we have been using at ComDev. So I started to use his optimization software, and it did help me tremendously for doing my work. ComDev had several fruitful research collaboration with John over the years. By 1993, I started to form my own R&D group at ComDev. And I hired one of John's graduate students. That student by name of Shenyi. And Shenyi did amazing work at ComDev. And this is really a reflection of the quality of the training that John provided to his graduate students. By mid of 1990, it was really an exciting time for microwave engineers because computers became powerful, and engineers found that the only way to design things is to use computers. John was smart enough to know that where the industry is going and came up with a so-called space mapping technique. It is truly an amazing technique. It's being used in academia and industry all over the globe. And 2000, I left ComDev, and I kept in touch with John through meeting and conferences. But till today, the name of Bandler comes often in my group as my graduate students using his space mapping technique almost on a daily basis. On a daily basis, they are using his technique. I look at John as a role model in my career, both at ComDev and at the University of Waterloo. I used to come to him from time to time over the phone for advice, particularly moving from industry to academia. It was an interesting time for me. So he used to give very interesting advices. In addition to his technical contribution as a professor, he has many other talents and interests. You know, directing plays, author of fiction, generating arts. Truly, I have not met any engineering professor with such wide range of talents. John also is a great public speaker, and he has been using his talents in his area to give talks to graduate students, how to give technical presentation and technical talks. As a matter of fact, he's scheduled to give a talk next week at McMaster on the topic to graduate students, how to speak in public, how to give technical presentation. Also, he's going to give the same talk at the University of Waterloo in mid of November, same talk on technical speaking. So when Beth asked me to say a few words, I said, great. Now John will watch my speech and he will give me his advice. That's why I brought papers with me, just to be careful, you know. So I really look forward to hear his advices after that, how I did in a speech. Anyway, happy birthday, John, and I wish you really many years to come of a very active life.
So we have a few more speeches, but I think, well, can we fit one more in? What do you think? Sure. Okay, thank you, Laura. Laura makes decisions. Okay, Vitek, where are you? Come on up. So Vitek is a former student of John's who recently retired after a long career at Ontario Hydro. Vitek and his wife Eva are here today, and we're delighted to have you. So, Vitek,
thank you. Thank you, Beth. I promised Beth that it will be under 2 minutes, my speech, so I'll be very brief. And good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to say that I have been associated with John for over 30 years, both professionally and privately. And as a matter of fact, I met John on my first day in Canada when I arrived at McMaster University to start my graduate studies. John was always very generous with his time and knowledge. I really appreciated in the first months and years of my work at McMaster his open door policy. Basically, you could come to his office and at any time talk to him about your ideas, about your projects, and get valuable advice and guidance. He was demanding but fair to his graduate students. And also, I remember his sayings about courses that he was teaching to undergraduate students. And one of the lines that he would always use is that his courses are not Mickey Mouse courses. And that he's not running a daycare center. There's little time to mention all John's sayings, but one of them that I adopted and that served me well in both professional and private life is that whenever I'm faced with a dilemma or a difficult question, I always recall what John used to say in this situation: please yourself. So it worked. Thank you. I have also learned from John to pay attention to detail. And he used to say, when we were working on a research paper and subsequent drafts have been produced and reviewed, and at the end of this process, he would say, if you read the draft and you didn't find any errors or omissions, it means that you haven't read it carefully. So, John, it is my great pleasure to congratulate you on the occasion of your birthday and to wish you good health and many long years of further activity, both as a researcher and teacher. Your life has been full of great achievements and well-earned successes. So you must feel great, and you must feel great satisfaction. On your birthday, I would like to wish you all the best that life has to offer, and thank you for your guidance for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Vitek. So why don't we take a little break, enjoy dinner, and I'll come back later. And if anybody else wants to add a few words, just come and let me know. Okay, our first speaker of this tranche will be Radek Bernanke. Radek and John go a long way back. Radek worked with John at McMaster and in John's company, which was sold to Hewlett Packard at 1997, as you know. And Radek, lucky Radek, was transferred to Santa Rosa, California. There isn't a nicer place to live. And Radek and his wife Margaret still live there. Radek still is with the evolution of Hewlett Packard. And we're delighted that Radek and Margaret came from California to be with us today. And Radek, please come up.
Well, thank you, Beth. It is my great honor and privilege to be here and celebrate John's birthday. It was in 1978 that I joined John as a postdoctoral fellow. And in his invitation letter, he wrote, "I look forward to a rewarding association." He was an accomplished person at that time. That year he got IEEE fellowship. And I was starting. And believe me, a rewarding association it was. At least for me, and I hope for John too. Thank you, Beth, for organizing this wonderful event. And I would like to say that we had a very nice tradition with John to take each other for lunch to celebrate our respective birthdays. And when I moved to California, we continue to call each other, though I have to be frank that occasionally we forget if Microsoft Outlook doesn't remind us. But at least we can blame technology, not our memory. I was not to talk about John's achievements. Everybody knows that very well. But listening to the previous speakers, I think I would like to say one thing that is really important, that the reason why he was so successful, one reason was already mentioned, his can-do attitude, and the other one is that I would phrase contagious curiosity. His unbelievable curiosity is so contagious, it gets to other people around him, and that creates a fantastic teamwork. That's how we actually work together, and that's what I started appreciating actually from the first minute I started working with John. So I want to be short, so I just want to say to John, 100 lat. To those unfamiliar with Polish, the literal translation of 100 lat is 100 years. And the implicit meaning is that we wish the celebrant to achieve at least 100 years in good health. So I really want to say 100 lat, and if you can help me to say that again with me, 100 lat, 100 lat. Thank you.
Okay, birthday boy, this is for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you. Okay, so our friends at Liuna are now going to set up birthday cake and dessert, and we will continue with speeches, and as soon as they're ready, we'll take a break and have a bite to eat and come back with more fun. Okay? Okay, so our next speaker is my niece Laura Laura Caracas. You know, habits really stay with you. Laura has been a roommate with John and I this summer, and it was really quite delightful because roommates pick up after themselves, unlike family, which don't. So it was a real pleasure to have Laura stay with us while she pursued her career. So Laura, come on up, please.
I was both a roommate and family.
Yes, always.
So, you know, a lot of things have been said about, I'll say, Uncle Johnny, though everyone else refers to as John, about all the success you've had in your life, in your career, in your hobbies. And to some of us less experienced, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And just like in tabloid magazines, they'll have a picture that says, stars, they're just like us. I want to share that Uncle Johnny, despite or with all of his accomplishments, is a normal person too, just like us, just like you and me. And because I lived with him for a month, I feel like I can really give some insight. So Uncle Johnny wakes up in the morning, just like we all do, and has a cup of black coffee, nothing else in the coffee. And throughout the day, he'll maybe go to some meetings, take selfies, post on social media, and in fact, he'll also frequent McDonald's despite his fit physique. And then at the end of the day, I came home from work and we both wait for Auntie Beth to make us dinner or give instructions on how to heat up dinner or what to do, how to eat, how to clean up. And then we'd watch CNN. And I'm not really sure what's going to happen in the house after November 8th. What will take up some time? I'm sure you'll find something. Actually, on November 9th, the day after the election, is an important time for me. I find out where I'll be going for the next stage of my training, and that's relevant tonight because Uncle Johnny has helped me so much in getting to where I got to today in my career through all stages of my academic life. He's mentored me with helping me with my applications, helping me with interview prep, and really providing me with tons of advice and guidance. So I'm so appreciative for all that you've done to me and for letting me be a roommate. So thank you. Happy birthday.
So I will boast. Okay, Laura is in her, I don't know, third or fourth year as an internal medicine resident in the Toronto hospitals, and has applied for the next period to be a fellow in respirology. So if any of you have connections, okay, her first choice is Toronto, and her second choice is Hamilton. So put in a good word. Any hospital would be delighted to have Laura work for them, just as we were delighted to have her live with us. Okay, our next speaker is Kai Madsen. Kai retired a few years ago from an illustrious career at the Technical University of Denmark. Kai, a mathematician, and John, an electrical engineer, collaborated on research for 35 plus years, meeting practically every year throughout that time. Sometimes John would go to Denmark, sometimes Kai would come to our house. And Anne-Marie is here today. Anne-Marie is Kai's wife, and Anne-Marie has sent with Kai, every time he came to visit us, the most wonderful presents from Copenhagen. So thank you very much, Anne-Marie and Kai. So Without further ado, I'm going to ask Kai to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Beth. I've known John for 41 years. Our first contact in 1975 did not suggest a long-lasting friendship. John was a reviewer of one of my papers in 1975. And I didn't like the review. It was critical, unpleasant, I would say nearly aggressive. So anyway, the paper was accepted after some corrections. And then the year after, we met in Munich at the IEEE conference. And I changed my mind totally to this reviewer, because immediately we had a good communication. I could immediately sense that John has a lot of humor, which I think is very important for a human being. So we got friends already at that time, and John invited me to visit McMaster. I did that 2 years later in 1978 to give, we were there for 8 weeks with my whole family. John rented a house for us. And I gave a course for PhD students and postdocs. It was on optimization, which is my subject. I was teaching some new phrases like trust regions, global and local convergence. That was introduced. And I think I enjoyed very much the collaboration, first of all with John. I never had so many intelligent questions to my lectures that I had in these 8 weeks. And it was also very efficient. We arrived on the Sunday, I guess, and the lectures were scheduled to start on the Monday, the day after. No time to waste. After that, as Beth indicated, we had a lot of collaboration. We started to do research together and write papers together. I think some of the papers perhaps have even been useful. And we have been visiting each other many times. I've been at McMaster giving courses or doing research, and John has been in Copenhagen. As Beth indicated, I think we met almost every year. We have developed a very good friendship. I think it's always a pleasure to meet John. He's in science the most inspiring person I've been working with. You think he can make you think this is really exciting. Of course it is. And you can create enthusiasm among people. You can make your students really be enthusiastic about the work. And I think this is a very seldom skill for university teachers. Also, John has opened my eyes to other subjects, such as modern art, together with Beth. We've been visiting many art galleries. Maybe I sometimes thought that the modern art was humbug, but John teach me how to see it. So, John, thank you for 40 years collaboration and friendship. And thanks from Anna Maria and myself to be invited to this big celebration. So, happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much, Kai, and I hope there's 40 more years of good friendship, at minimum. Or, as they say in Poland, 100 more years, right? Okay, so we now have a special presentation. Tom Mackin is an award-winning theater director here in Ontario.
I'm so sorry, Beth. We're just not ready.
So why don't you pretend it's a rehearsal? Okay?
I've never done that.
Well, you need to be creative. Okay.
Be sure you speak with the agency.
So Tom has been John's mentor. I was going to introduce you a little more, build you up a bit.
Okay, fine. I'll stand here and wait for you.
Okay.
One thing, it's enough. All right.
Tom has been John's mentor in directing, and to our delight, Tom has directed 3 of John's plays. Today, Tom has coerced Steve O'Brien, Valerie Van Lanschot, and Genevieve Angelini to come up and do something. I thought it was a polished performance, but I guess Tom is downplaying like usual that he's not prepared, but he's prepared. So Steve has been in several of John's plays. Valerie is one of the best stage managers in the area, and Genevieve plays little girls so well. So that's because in one of John's plays, she played a 5-year-old and was very convincing. So, ladies and gentlemen, the actors.
Praise the Lord. Oh, Lord save us and Mrs. Davis. Well, now, here's a little nice to have you all here today. As I say, we came totally unprepared. So what's happened is this. We had arranged to have the Cora Antiqua come in, and sing to you the birthday anthem in the original Latin to an original melody by Antonio Vivaldi with a background by Johann Sebastian Bach. But unfortunately, crisis arose, as they do, So here I am all alone. But basically, I think we can do it. I called the agency, and they did send 3 of their best to help us out here. So if you would welcome, please, Mr. Stephen O'Brien. Yes. Miss Valerie Lanschot. And Miss Genevieve, whose last name has changed since she got married, and she'll have to tell you it herself. Angelini. All right. Now, what I'm going to have to do, I'm afraid, you just bear with me for a minute while I whisper what it is they have to do for you. Is that all right? You'll be all right? Now, when I raise my hand, that'll be the beat. We have an upbeat in this business, not a downbeat. Be quiet. All right. Here we go. You ready? Give me a note. Too high for you? She's good, isn't she? Wow, very good. Lovely, lovely. All right, here's the upbeat.
We love you, John. Oh, yes, we do.
We love you, John, and we'll be true.
When you're not near us, we're blue.
Oh, everybody.
John,
we love you. I'll finish yet. That was so good you deserve an encore. You really do, don't you think so? A bit of an encore. All right, we'll do it for you, Sid. down here now, get out of the way. Now watch for your upbeat. Is that right here? Ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear John.
All together, please.
Happy birthday to you.
As a wise man once said, I will say this in closing, if the saucer can't find the cup will have to find the saucer. Thank you, Dr. John.
You read Facebook. Anybody wants to say anything, do it now. Thank you so much.
Wonder Bar, all three, all four of you. Wonderful. So why don't we take a little break and have some birthday cake and dessert, and then come back and sit down and we'll continue the entertainment. We have a few more speeches, and then the party will continue just chatting with each other. So our first speakers, it's a trio of Roberto, Genevieve, and Vivian Angelini.
I didn't actually prepare anything, so this is going to be off the cuff. And I know Beth's on a really tight time constraint, so I'll keep it within the bounds. I don't know if I'm qualified to be up here speaking because, well, I don't have a PhD or a master's. I don't even have a degree, and I'm kind of wondering how I made it into this party tonight. I'm just a bus driver, and I work for Go Transit, so this little station they got going on down here, I'm a part of that whole plan. Anyhow, when I met John, it was during the Fringe in 2012, and I wrote a play, and Genevieve was in it, and John wrote a play, and we went to go see it, and Jenna said, oh, I really like this play, let's go talk to the playwright. I said, no, I didn't understand the play, so let's just leave. I don't want to talk to the playwright. And as I got to know John over the years, I realized that he's actually a very astute, very pinpoint accurate type of man. And just when you think you're good at something, he challenges you to make yourself better. If I was to say how I would describe a guy like John, I wouldn't say he's like a meteor or a comet or a flaming ball streaking through the sky. He is like the pinpoints of light of every star in that sky. He is the astronaut of his own endeavors. And he made that clear to me the day I proposed to Genevieve, and he said to me, I'm very curious, what exactly did you say when you proposed to her? I didn't know John as well then as I do now, so I didn't know I shouldn't have responded, but I said, well, I wasn't quite sure what to say, John. I couldn't prepare anything, so I just kind of did it off the cuff. I said, Genevieve, I love you. Will you marry me? You're just the greatest. And he paused for a moment, and he looked at me, and he said, you know, from a playwright, I would have expected something a little more profound. That's John Bandler. Thank you.
I just wanted to speak a little more on the experience of working with John Bandler in a play. So usually working on a play, you're primarily working with the director, and the director may ask you, you know, what do you think about this sentence, or, you know, what do you think the playwright is trying to convey with this scene? But in our case, we always had the playwright available, so we had the opportunity to ask him what he thought, or more poignantly, he would tell us what the text was saying. So we found that with John, he was very happy when an actor would take the initiative to change a word or to change a dramatic pause. He liked that. He liked actors to improvise. He liked the actors to ad-lib, you know, to stray from the text, to throw in a love scene here or there. I think from what we've heard today, that's not the case. But you know what?
working with John is wonderful. It's his precision and passion for the plays that he's created, the characters he's created, that make working with him on a play so rewarding. So happy 75th birthday, John, and many more years and plays to come.
Okay, we have one more speech before the grand finale. And that is Ming Yu from ComDev. He's been a colleague of John's for many years. And he came from Kitchener-Waterloo with his wife to be with us today. Come on up, Ming.
Hello, everyone. So you guess you already heard John's long history with this industrial company called ComDev. We heard the speech from Dr. Chandra Kusia, Dr. Rafael Mansour. They were all ex-directors of research and chief scientists of ComDev. I'm the current guy doing those jobs. That's how I get to know John. And before I talk a little bit more about John, let me introducing some of the engineering concept that John get involved with, because many of you, maybe from the artistic side, you don't understand. John is an international expert on optimization. So in engineering design, we do optimization, right? So that means a good optimization takes very little steps to finish. We call it converge. So in John, one of John's software we use, we only take 7 iterations to converge. We consider it wonderful. But today, after I listened to the story from Beth, and that completely changed my mind, because when John was in dating, I typically take multiple iterations. But for John, for 9 days got engaged, 3 months got married. God, they take 1 iteration to converge. That's basically why he's the international expert. That explains everything. So now I know you a lot better, John. So coming to a more personal note, one of the things I'm really impressed with John is through all these years, we started more like a business relationship. But what I find John is he's truly a mentor to me for my own career growth. And when I have some trouble, I consult him, and he actually really genuinely willing to spend time with me. And actually I was doing some application, and he actually spent time help me do this. And when someone is genuine to you, you can sense it is from the bottom of their heart. So thank you again, John, for all these years, and happy birthday, and many, many good years to come. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you today John Bandler, who will say a few words and continue our party. So, come on up, John.
Wow, with all those lies everybody has said about me. What a day, wow. Undeserved, highly exaggerated speeches, I must say. I didn't write any of them. Genevieve is right. I really don't want anybody to stray from the script, so I will not stray much from my own script here. Okay. Hi, I'm John Bandler, and I'm almost 75. Hard to believe, isn't it? But I haven't always been almost 75. With opening words like these for my 2014 McMaster TEDx talk, I actually drew a laugh. You can check it out on the internet. Obviously, I'm not as funny today as I was then. So anyway, this may be the last joke of the day, at least mine. So I'm really sorry. And have I put any babies to sleep yet? I think Vivian is still... these speeches really have excited her a lot, as has my paintings and also this rose. I think they've been hits. I'm thrilled that so many of you have come from so many walks of life, professional colleagues, friends, family, family friends, friends I speak Greek with, sitting over at this table here, writing buddies, artist friends, theater friends, and family. Some of the writing buddies are over here, the theater people are over here, and you're all over the place. Some of you I've known for years, perhaps decades, but hold on, as Beth says, you should relax. I'm sworn not to divulge any temporal details. Some of you I've known for just a few short years, some less than a year. There are actually people here, at least one person who I've known less than a year. But all of you have one thing in common: you've made an impact on my life. That's why I wanted you to share this day with me. My daughters Lydia and Zoe over there, would you please stand with grandchildren, Eric, Una, Matthew, Sam, and Colin. Yeah, stand up, guys. Stand up, everybody. And husbands, Graham and Dan. Husbands, Graham and Dan. They haven't been acknowledged yet, so stand up, guys. And my mother-in-law, Sybil. Sybil, please stand up. You see her? Thank you. Actually, it was Sybil who introduced me to painting. Beth left on a trip in about 1995 and didn't want me to get up to any mischief, so she put her mother in charge of me. And I went to her studio. She put paintbrushes in my hand and lined up the paints and put the canvas on the easel, and I was hooked on painting ever since. Okay, so you're all here for my 75th birthday, so who am I? Well, my parents fled occupied Austria in 1939. They lived in Cyprus for a couple of years, then left again. I was born in 1941 in Jerusalem, where, to the dismay of my father's Jewish family, I was named John William Bandler. My parents took me to Cyprus after the war in 1945, and in Cyprus for 11 years, I went to English schools, spoke German at home, and Greek with my neighborhood friends. In 1956, my mother and I moved briefly to Vienna, where I didn't like it. That was 1956. So I joined my father in London, England, and lived there for the next 11 years, finishing school and university before coming to Canada in 1967. So let me specifically thank those of you who came from beyond southern Ontario: Kai and Anne-Marie from Denmark, Radek and Margaret from California, Wolfgang and Diana from Victoria, my cousin Ronnie. Where is Ronnie? Oh, there he is, standing at the door. He's from Israel, but now lives in Vancouver. Jim and Jean from Syracuse, New York, are over there. Patrick from Ottawa. Where is Patrick? There. Oh, there he is. Okay, good, excellent. Patrick from Ottawa. Erin from Massachusetts. Erica, there she is, sitting over there. And Rosalind from Montreal. There she is over there. Thank you, dear friends, for being here. My lovely wife, Beth, once said, "I've given you the best years of my life." Well, we've been together for 26 years, 26 fantastic years. I promise you, Beth, at least another 24. I did promise you 50 altogether, remember? So 26 plus 24, and I think I'll be 99 at that point. So anyway, the party's not over. Help yourself, please, to more dessert. Mingle with the crowd. And if you haven't had a picture taken with me or with yourselves or with anybody, please do so now. And thank you all so much for being here.
Okay, so the speeches are over, unless anybody has any impromptu things they'd like to add. So much on one man. Anyway, there's still some dessert. There's lots of coffee, tea. Please mingle. Please make sure you've written in the book. Go to look at the video to see if your picture is there. And enjoy. And don't forget, John needs a photograph taken with him. So Paulina's over there, John is here. Just grab the two of them. Okay, thank you. Don't go home yet.